The arm. He didn't think about infection. He didn't think about touching the patch. He just lunged in, wrapped both hands around Alpha's forearm. Gods, it wasn't even warm. It was cold, like ceramic left in a freezer, and yanked. Alpha jerked. Not because he was stronger. Because he wasn't code. Physical leverage matters, even to something that thinks like a process. He hauled like he was dragging a stubborn server rack out of a corner it didn't want to leave, planting his heel, twisting his hips, using his whole spine like a lever. Alpha stumbled forward. Its smooth, featureless face snapped down toward him. Up close, he could see hairline seams in that white surface. Tiny. Perfect. Beautiful, in a horrible way. That was where the patch compiled higher fidelity render, a face, eyes, skin, if it wanted to blend. It hadn't bothered here. This was a kill run, not a PR moment. Zeng bared his teeth. "Hi," he said brightly. "Have we met? I'm Collateral." And he headbutted Purge. Which, for the record, hurt like absolute hell. His forehead slammed into that too white surface and he saw stars. Bright, sharp, floaters dancing across vision. Pain zinged down his nose. His eyes watered instantly. But Alpha jerked. Not from pain. From shock. It hadn't modeled target slam skull into my faceplate as an input, apparently. Zeng staggered back, clutching his own face. "Ow, ow, ow, ow." Yun barked a laugh in pure disbelief even as she pivoted, staff sweeping down in a brutal crack on Alpha's knee joint. The wood of her staff flickered where it hit, smoking, but Alpha's leg buckled. It dropped half a step, rebalancing. Han, meanwhile, had used Bravo's fall like an artist uses line. Rope still looped, he twisted, planted a foot against Charlie's chest, and pulled. For one glorious second, both hunters yanked in opposite directions, their own smooth limbs tangling their balance routines. "Zeng," Han yelled, eyes lit up, grin feral. "Now would be a great time for your god to actually god." "I'm working on IT," Zeng yelled back, voice cracking. He grabbed the copper charm again, his anchor, and shoved. Not into the seam, this time. Into the core. He didn't know if that would work. He just knew the core had said "talk to me," and he was currently doing something extremely loud. Or, he thought, slamming his mind forward like ramming a shoulder into a stuck door. Or, "Hey, hi, it's me, I need heat." Immediate. Blinding. Not external. Internal. Like a live line slammed into his spine from above and current poured straight down into his bones. Zeng screamed. Not in pain. In overload. For a heartbeat, he wasn't in his body. He was through his body. He felt his own skeleton like a circuit. He felt his own blood like conductive fluid. He felt his own skin like an interface layer. He felt the copper charm bridging him out. He felt the core lean, hard, through him. The world lurched. Alpha froze. Not paused. Froze. Full lock. Mid-strike, mid-recover, mid-process. Motionless. Like someone had hit breakpoint on its runtime and the thread had halted. Bravo and Charlie spasmed, their limbs twitching in ugly, juddering glitches as the control signal stuttered. Han let out an unholy whoop. "Yes," he yelled. Yun used the opening like she'd been waiting her whole life for it. Her staff whipped up, down, up again, a blur. She moved like anger sharpened to precision. The first strike slammed into Alpha's wrist joint. Something sparked. The second cracked across the tether cutter and knocked it free. The third, and gods, Zeng was going to be thinking about that motion later, drove the butt of her staff straight into the white seam of Alpha's neck. If Alpha had been human, that would have shattered its larynx. Alpha wasn't human. Alpha's neck joint blinked red. Red. For one heartbeat. Then white again. But in that heartbeat, Zeng saw it. A vulnerable seam. "There," he yelled, voice raw, pointed. "Neck. Neck." Red flash. Han did not hesitate. He dropped low, slid, and in the smooth motion of someone who's been waiting his whole life for an invitation, pulled the short curved blade he kept tucked God knows where and drove it, with all his body weight, up into that seam. The blade hit. For a splintered instant, Zeng felt resistance like striking ceramic. Then, crack. Not the cinematic explosion of sparks and gore. Just a hairline fracture. A bright, perfect, satisfying little break. Alpha screamed. Not with a voice. With a sound like feedback. Pure, ripping distortion tore through the scene, high and ugly, so loud it wasn't sound anymore but sensation. The air shook. The iron-taste water rippled for the first time. Bravo and Charlie convulsed. Their bodies, still tangled in rope and each other, spasmed hard enough to slam into the dead gray planks. Placeholder shivered. Flickered. Cylinders of geometry popped in and out of render like the world was hiccuping. Yun snarled and drove her staff down on Alpha's arm again, twice, 3 times, wood smoking, knuckles white, jaw clenched. Give me that, she hissed. Zeng moved without thinking. He kicked Alpha's drop tether cutter away from where its frozen hand had let it fall and scooped it up without pausing to consider is picking up purge weaponry a terrible idea. Answer, yes. He picked it up anyway. The thing wasn't physical the way you think of physical. It didn't have weight so much as presence. It hummed, vibrating against his palm like a tuning fork, and made his teeth feel weird. He didn't have time to figure it out. Alpha's freeze broke. The core's push, whatever that had been, hiccuped. Zeng felt it stutter, like the core's attention had flickered, like it had leaned too hard through him and hit the edge of what it could do without being flagged by the patch. Alpha twitched. Its head snapped, fast, like an insect waking back up mid-pinch. Its arm jerked. Han yanked his blade free and rolled back just in time to avoid getting his face smashed by a reactivated limb. Zeng, moving on pure idiot instinct, swung. He didn't know sword forms. He didn't know staff work. He didn't know talisman techniques or sect patterns or graceful cultivator arcs. He knew physics. He knew leverage. He knew hit the weak point. He swung the tether cutter like a bat and buried its flickering edge right where Han's knife had cracked that red seam. White met white. The cutter bit. For a heartbeat, resistance. Then something gave. The world went bright. Alpha's neck, that perfect, too clean joint, blew apart in a spray of white shards and flicker. Not blood. Code. Glitch light, like a screen shattering in slow motion. Segments of smooth white shell flew. Underneath, not gears. Not bone. Light. A screaming, writhing lattice of not yet rendered substructure, thrashing and strobing. Alpha lurched. Its body spasmed, jerked ceiling ward, and then crashed sideways into the iron water with a splash that hissed like acid on contact with itself. The air howled. Patchlight flared blinding bright, then snapped so hard it threw static across Zeng's vision. Bravo and Charlie, still tangled, went instant still. For one solid second, there was only sound. Not patch sound. Market sound. From behind them, from platforms back in the lantern glow, from rope walks and scaffolds and Terrace 7 and the Archivist's den and gods knew how many throats, a roar. It wasn't words. It was an animal sound. A triumph sound. Oh, you thought no one could do that sound. Zeng felt it hit the scene like a wave. Felt it matter. Purge Execution Unit 3F Red Alpha twitched. Its body convulsed once, twice, flickering in and out of render like its runtime couldn't decide which state to hold on to. Then it went still. Very still. Like junk code after a forced kill. Han, chest heaving, knife still in hand, stared down at it. Slowly, reverently, in a voice gone low with awe, he said, "Oh my gods, we just killed one before lunch." Yun let out a shaky breath. She didn't smile. She didn't cheer. She just closed her eyes for 1 second and pressed the heel of her palm to her sternum, like she was steadying her heartbeat back into her ribs. Zeng swayed. The world tilted hard. The copper charm in his palm was hot enough to sting. His wrist burned where Contract Fox's script sat under his skin, pulsing with adrenaline and market hum and tether panic. He realized, distantly, that his nose was bleeding. Headbutting a purge unit, suboptimal. He also realized he was still holding the tether cutter. That felt important. The remaining 2 hunters, Bravo and Charlie, were down but not gone. They twitched in ugly little syncopated jerks, like reboot attempts failing. Their limbs spasmed against the rope Han had looped, flicker render hissing where Patchlight tried to recover control. Zeng tightened his grip. This was the tooth. This was the message the Archivist wanted hanging outside her den. This was proof. Han, he rasped. Han tore his gaze away from Alpha's broken body. Take the head, Zeng whispered. Han grinned, slow and feral. Oh, Archivist is gonna kiss me. Yun made a disgusted noise. Gross, she muttered. Han laughed, breathless. Then, efficient as a butcher, he crouched and began working his blade into Alpha's fractured neck seam to pry loose a clean plate. Yun moved instantly to Zeng's side. Her hand slid under his arm, bracing him before he swayed all the way forward into the iron water. Sit, she ordered. He blinked at her. Standing is working, sit, she said, sharper. His knees gave up the argument. He dropped to a crouch on the dev gray plank bridge, breathing hard, clutching the copper charm like a rosary and the still humming tether cutter like a stolen relic. His vision pulsed at the edges. His spine felt like someone had taken all his nerves, braided them, and then used the braid to pull something heavy across broken ground. He tasted metal, and smoke, and something almost sweet that he realized belatedly was adrenaline breaking down. Yun's hand was on his shoulder, firm. Her other hand was already at his nose, tipping his chin, checking pupils, checking bleed, professional, fast. You hit a hunter with your face, she said, voice low and scathing but shaking at the edges. Why would you hit a hunter with your face? He tried to smile. It came out lopsided. She told me not to die, he mumbled. Who? Yun said. Everyone, he said. She made a strangled sound halfway to a laugh, halfway to a sob, then leaned in and pressed her forehead briefly against his, hard, grounding. Don't, she whispered. Do that to me. He swallowed. Yes, Yun, he whispered. She huffed a wet little laugh. Good, she muttered. Han let out an obscene little noise of triumph. Ha! Zeng looked up, blinking through the throb in his skull. Han held something up like a trophy. It was a curved plate of smooth, perfect, patch white shell, about the size of his palm, with that hairline fracture still visible like a red vein through it. It gleamed wrong in the seam light. Han grinned like a fox that had just found a henhouse with no door. Archivist is gonna lose her mind, he said. Yun wrinkled her nose. Don't wave purge meat at me, she said. It's not meat, Han said. Still, Yun said. Han laughed, exhilarated, flushed, eyes bright. Oh, he said. Oh, we are going to dine out on this story forever. Zeng let out a weak breath that might have been a laugh if it hadn't hurt so much. Ling, he mumbled. Yun blinked. What? He shook his head, sucking in another breath. Nothing, he whispered. Inside joke. Yun narrowed her eyes like she did not like being excluded from any part of his medical history, emotional or physical, but let it go for the moment. Han tucked the plate into a cloth wrap. He had a cloth wrap. Of course he had a cloth wrap. He was disgusting, and bound it to his belt in 3 quick, practiced motions. Then he crouched beside Bravo and Charlie, who were still twitching, still glitching, still very not dead, and did something with the rope and a spare scrap of metal that looked, to Zeng's half-fogged brain, like he was turning 2 live purge units into luggage. Yun side-eyed him. You're bringing them. Han blinked up at her, innocent. Archivist said bring me pieces. She did not say 2 entire still twitching purge units, Yun said flatly. Details, Han said. Zeng exhaled, slow. The singing. It had stopped. He hadn't even realized it had stopped until right then. That high, thin, looping voice that had threaded through the iron taste air when they'd arrived? Gone. He swallowed. His stomach went cold. Yun, he whispered. His. Her head snapped toward the iron water instantly. Yes, she breathed. They both listened. Silence. No singing. No crying. For one heartbeat, panic spiked sharp in Zeng's gut. Then, very faint, from deeper in the seam, past the shimmer, behind a jagged chunk of half-rendered stone that looked like a wall that hadn't decided if it existed yet, he heard it. Not singing. Breathing. Fast. Small. Muffled. He lurched, adrenaline slamming through the exhaustion like jumper cables on a dead battery. Yun's hand clamped down on his shoulder. No, she snapped. Yun, I go, she said. You can barely see straight. I can feel them, he hissed. Her jaw clenched. Then point. He swallowed. Closed his eyes. He let his tether open, just a little, not to Tianling. They were back behind him, pulsing, frantic, present, but to the seam. He pushed through the static and pain and iron taste and found the heat that wasn't patchlight. Small. Warm. Terrified. Hiding. He lifted his hand and pointed, shaking, to the jagged half-wall out in the shallow water. There, he whispered. Behind that. Low. 2. Maybe 3. One's hurt. I can feel it pulling. Yun nodded once. Stay, she said. Yes, Yun, he whispered, and didn't even pretend to fight her on it. She moved. Gods, she moved. Yun wasn't graceful in the sect disciple dancing on bamboo way. She was efficient. Brutal. Her steps were flat, controlled, keeping her center low so the market sway didn't take her, even out here where the boards had given way to deb gray and shallow iron water. She crossed that shallow in 3 strides, not letting her feet sink. When the water hissed against her boots, she didn't flinch. Han watched her go, eyebrows up, impressed. Marry me, he muttered. Shut up, Zeng muttered. Han grinned. Yun reached the half-rendered wall. She crouched fast, staff in one hand, body angled to block line of sight from anything Patch had left awake, and slipped her free hand into the dark space under the jagged geometry. For a heartbeat, nothing. Then someone hissed. A child. Yun hissed back. Not words. Soothing noise. Short. Soft. The kind of sound you make to an animal with one paw in a trap. I'm here. Stay still. Don't tear yourself worse. Zeng's throat clenched. He remembered that sound. He'd heard it from her last night. To the old man with the lung rattle. To the baby who wouldn't stop screaming. To him. After that tiny, fierce hiss, Yun murmured. Soft. Fast. It's all right. It's all right. I'm not heaven. I'm not Patch. I'm here. I'm here. A thin wail answered, quiet, cut off quick, like someone had a hand over a mouth so they wouldn't be heard. Yun slid farther, practically on her stomach now, arm vanishing behind the half wall. Her whole body went tense. Got you, she breathed. Then she hauled. 2 small shapes tumbled out into the gray light. 1, maybe 6, maybe 7, hit the deb gray with a wet thump and scrambled instantly, wide-eyed, feral fast, trying to bolt on all 4s like a cornered stray animal. The other didn't scramble. The other didn't move. Yun didn't let either go. She snatched the scrambling one by the back of their collar in a grip so practiced some briefly wondered if she'd spent time wrangling street kids even before the world broke. She hauled them in, tucked them against her ribs with one arm like contraband, and scooped the limp one up with the other, cradling the head immediately, her fingers going to the base of the skull in the smooth motion of someone who knows exactly how hard to support a neck. Easy, she murmured. Shh, I got you. I got you. The scrambling one made a high, cracked sound and thrashed, little hands clawing. They wore the same blank gray as Lin and Trouble. The same placeholder non-clothes. One sleeve was soaked in dark iron water and clung slick to a thin arm. Their face, gods. Their face flickered the way Trouble's had, features refusing to settle, eyes too wide for any one rendering. They twisted, feral, panicked, fast. Then they looked up, fast, and saw Zeng. They froze. Everything in them, shoulders, jaw, hands, went rigid. Then, in a cracked, hoarse whisper that cut Zeng in half, they said, "You're loud." Zeng felt something inside him break and rearrange. Yun heard it. Her eyes flicked to his face. She exhaled, one quick shaky breath, and then turned, both kids in her arms, and started back across the shallow. Her jaw was clenched. Hard. As she moved, Zeng saw the limp kid better. Small. Maybe 4. Maybe 3. Hard to tell. Too light. Too still. Their skin, what little of it showed around the gray placeholder clothes, wasn't right. It wasn't patch white. It wasn't Tianling warm. It was pale. Faded. Like someone had pulled saturation out of them. Their mouth hung slightly open. Their chest moved, fast and shallow. Blood, real blood, not glitch, was smeared across their forehead in a dark line. Yun's face was carved stone. She did not run. She walked. Careful. Controlled. The shallow hissed around her boots. Han stood up fast, wrapping rope more securely around Bravo and Charlie with a yank knot that turned their limp bodies into easily draggable bundles. "We doing this," he said. Zeng swallowed. "We're doing this," he whispered. Han grinned, wild and hungry. "We are so doing this." Yun reached them. She knelt, slow and deliberate, lowering both kids onto the dev gray planks away from the iron water. The scrambling one instantly scampered, tried to dart, then stopped again when they hit Zeng's shadow, like there was a wall there no one else could see. They pressed themselves flat to his side, shaking, eyes huge, one small hand fisted in his robe with white knuckles, just like trouble the night before. "Hi," Zeng whispered, voice raw. They didn't answer. They just watched his face like it was the only stable object in this entire scene. Yun had already dropped to both knees over the limp child. Her hands moved with terrifying speed. Check neck. Check pulse. Check pupils. Peel back eyelid with thumb. Check breathing. Fingers under the jaw. Palm on the sternum. Ear close to mouth. She inhaled sharply. "Breathing," she said. "Fast." Zeng swallowed. "Head," he whispered. "Hit," she murmured. "Blunt. No fracture I can feel. Skin split. Small. Blood looks worse than it is." She lifted her hand. It was red. Not patch bright. Human red. "They're shocking. Can you move them?" Han said, urgent. Yun shot him a very specific look, one Zeng had already learned translated to, "Speak again like that and I'll break your ankles."